good resume, just couldn't get a job. So I did that for probably about a year, and then what I found is that very quickly in the corporate market, I would have to kiss a lot of butt, okay? Like a lot of it.
Yeah.
And we all feel like, hey, if this thing works, like it's gonna be, I'd kind of be shocked, but I got enough belief to give it a shot, right? As you start building, start making a process and document. Because once you do that, then you become scalable. Like people talk about growing, yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Biz Boutique, Business Insight Solutions. Today, super excited, we have the wonderful, the only Mr. Foxy, Damon Hart from Foxy Home Buyers here with us. Hi, Damon.
Hey, it's been a while. I've been looking forward to this.
It has. I'm so honored that you were able to accommodate your schedule and jump on here. I know you guys are super busy.
Of course, I would not meet it. I actually started practicing my R's just in time, so we could.
We need to work on the R roll.
I know.
We need to work on the R roll.
I know.
Rivera, try it again.
Rivera. I know. I gotta do better. I gotta do better.
And he's a Caribbean baby, y'all. You know.
Yeah, I gotta practice. Maybe a little Duolingo or something. But anyway, yeah. Thank you for having me.
Oh man. So you guys, Damon has taken his company, true entrepreneur, had a vision and had a dream, put a plan to action, and made it happen. And now he is actually one of the fastest growing, or the fastest growing real estate company here in the state of Florida with Foxy Home Buyer. So we're going to dive in deep, get to know Damon, his vision for Foxy, his goals, his accomplishments, and how you can make your vision, your dreams, your entrepreneurial goals come to life. Damon, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I mean, it kind of started, I am a Caribbean baby, we didn't speak much Spanish in St. Thomas, okay?
No.
So let me slide on that. But yeah, it was easy. I mean, my mom moved here to the States. We lived where every Caribbean person goes, to New York.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Is that New York or Miami?
I was going to say Miami.
Yeah. So, we moved to New York in like mid-80s. Kid just kind of came from living in like the countryside and ended up living in New York City. And my favorite story, I was telling my mom, I said, Mom, I was like, why do they call this place New York? And you look around, everything's so old. I was like, shouldn't you call it Old York? This is me, my 6-year-old brain back then. And then we ended up, living there until we ended up moving to New Jersey a couple of years later. And I grew up in New York, New Jersey, tri-state, most of my life till I came to Florida. About like 10 years ago.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And so the transition from St. Thomas to New York, pretty seamless one?
Seamless probably not, right? Because Noemi, I hadn't even seen snow like most of my life. So like the first day I went out.
Snowed
Yeah, true story. Like first day I went out and played in snow, right?
Okay.
And I probably played for hours, right? And I came in, my hands were frozen. So a Caribbean kid thinking like, okay, my hands are cold, how could I warm them up fast? What would you think?
What did you do?
I ran them under hot water like any other.
Okay.
And then my hands, they're still hot water. Didn't do it, just burned up on my hands, and I realized, okay, this is a different place.
It is.
It's not coconuts.
Yes, it is.
And palm trees. This is different out here. So.
I thought your story was going to be, as a Caribbean kid, you went out into the snow and you tried to make a snow cone.
No, I didn't do that. Because,
Must be a Puerto Rican thing.
Yeah, it might be, and especially the yellow snow. Stay away from the yellow snow. That's not a snow cone.
No.
All right? Especially in New York.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so
from there you went to college in Pennsylvania?
I did. Yeah, I went to
what was that like?
Where all real estate investors focus on accounting, right?
Okay.
My big motivation. Both my parents worked at the post office for a long time.
Okay.
Growing up, so my big motivation getting out of high school was like, okay, what are you gonna do when you grow up? I always wanted to be in business. I always felt like I wanted to be a business person. I felt like anytime you could be in business, you had an opportunity to create great wealth. I didn't know all those terms back then, but my feeling was I want to be rich, right? So I figured at least there's opportunity, but I didn't have anyone that was in entrepreneurship. I didn't have anyone in my immediate family that even owned a home. So my thing was like, okay, well, at least if I go to college for something related to business, maybe that'll get me in the game. And that's kind of how it worked out. I went and I studied accounting at a small liberal arts school, Keystone College, shout out. And it was up in rural Pennsylvania. And I don't know if you've ever been to Pennsylvania, Okay, so you never, so you probably never been to rural Pennsylvania either. You know, this place was so country. We got the first day of buck season. You know, male shooting bucks, shooting deer. We had the first day of buck season off every year.
Interesting.
So we didn't have to
It
go
was
to
like
school.
a holiday in Pennsylvania.
Oh, it still is. Has to be. Has to be. So here I am, you know, some kid from the, you know, I was living in suburbs at the time, in this rural place, you know, not much diversity, but man, we was up there and had the first day. But now, what did I do? Nothing, because I didn't hunt. I
was gonna say I expect some deer jerky soon then.
Nah, I ate it, but I damn sure wasn't going out shooting. I'll tell you funny. I got a deer story too if you want to hear it, but
you can't just stop there.
Well, the only real, aside from hitting deer a bunch of times, right? Like that's all you would hear. Like in New York and New Jersey, we hit deer. But the one time I was seeing a girl, and a college girlfriend, and her family lived up in that area for a very long time. So we went out there, and I'm going into her garage, and she's like, "Yeah, come inside," or whatever. Walked by, and I guess they had just went hunting. Man, I walk into this garage. There is a huge deer head staring right at me, like what you would see on mounted.
Yes.
This guy stared at me like this, but no body, just. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what are these, where's the rest, are you just keeping the head out here in the garage?
Should I continue dating this young lady?
Yeah, we made it till the end of the year, but let's just say, I felt, and then.
You had a newfound respect for Dad.
I did. And the brothers and everybody else, I was a good boyfriend, so I wasn't too concerned, but I felt bad for the deer. He didn't make it out, so. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pennsylvania.
Northeast of Pennsylvania.
On your bucket list, now it is.
Yeah. Message the show. We'll give you a couple places to go.
Oh my goodness. So, got into accounting.
Yeah.
You had a burning desire to do more, to go into business.
Right.
What led to those first steps? To you actually having a vision? What ignited that flame, and what started Mr. Foxy?
Well, Mr. Foxy didn't start till later.
Okay.
What started for me is I got out of college and I went to work for, at the time it was an insurance company.
Okay.
Didn't have any insurance background. I couldn't really get an accounting job out of school. You know, when they say, hey, go get your thing in your major, I couldn't get a job in my major. And I was a good student. I was a pretty good student. I was active in social, student government, stuff like that. So I had a pretty good resume. Just couldn't get a job. So I did that for probably about a year. And then what I found is that very quickly in the corporate market, I would have to kiss a lot of butt. Okay? Like a lot of it. Yeah. And, I got, my lips are not that big to kiss all that butt, is what I felt like. And then the other thing, it really rubbed me is, I had some kids that came in, the college kids too, they came in right after me and got hired, and for the position that I was fighting for. These guys came out, they told me you couldn't get the position, and these same kids came out 2 months after me, got hired, and got that position ahead of me, and I said, no, this don't seem right, So I was like, if I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to work hard, I'm going to just do it for myself. And that's kind of what really ignited me. I think maybe make the leap a little bit more. But it didn't stop there. I didn't just.
But I love those moments. Yeah. And we have to appreciate those moments. And you guys, these are fail forward. That's what comes to mind, you know, because I had a similar experience. Worked at a place for 12 years, was climbing the chains, but I was told I was unable to be promoted to a certain position. Yet I was training everyone under me, and they were being promoted.
Right.
And then someone not even with a financial background, they had a 4-year degree in French. God bless her.
In French,
and because she had the 4-year degree, was promoted. And then I had to sit and train her, and that was a pivotal moment for me. I mean, it hurt, but I didn't stay and I didn't wallow in it.
Right.
I said, okay. What do I want to do?
Right.
I can do this better. I have the experience. I'm already training the people. So I'm glad that you're pointing that out, and that was part of your journey, having that setback, that obstacle in front of you, and not just sitting there and being satisfied with that. You were able to see it and then say, okay, now it's up to me.
Yeah, and I think that's true for a lot of entrepreneurs because, usually entrepreneurs are the people that got good enough at what they do, and then they feel like, I could do this better, But But what I can tell you from my perspective is I didn't have, going into real estate, I probably didn't have the most experience.
Okay.
I had experience in other things, working in accounting, part-time, some sales, that sort of thing. But I didn't really have the real estate experience, which primarily is marketing.
Okay.
Like people have to get to know that you want to buy their house before they'll even sell it to you. Right?
True.
So I didn't have that skill. So I struggled when I decided, okay, it was time for me to go out on my own and get out of the corporate world. I struggled, and I would tell people, I guess my biggest advice would be, look, even though it sucks, even though you hate it, if you got a family, you got a little bit of something going on, unless you have reserves, you just stick it out, but do it with a plan.
Yes.
Don't do as I say, not as I do, right? Like go out.
Take it from Damon.
Yeah. Take it from me, right? Especially if you have overhead, right? If you have kids, if you have a mortgage, all those things can be taken away if your cash flow goes away. So what I would recommend is if you really hate it that much and they're doing funky stuff like that to you, okay, maybe you just got to eat a little bit. Maybe you don't give them the 100% that you're giving them. Maybe you start giving them 60,
okay.
60, 70% while you collect that check. But then you start working on your other
That's
thing,
right.
5 to 9, whatever time you have, and leave Netflix alone.
That's right.
Leave definitely don't go on Instagram. There's nothing good happening on Instagram except for this podcast. Okay, these shorts. There's nothing good.
Oh my God.
Right? Everything else, leave that alone, and
Yeah.
and before you know it, you put your head down. Then you can go, and then you get to go in there and tell them, after all, kiss my butt.
That's right.
That'll be the time when you can do it.
That's right.
And you don't have to look back.
Yeah. And that is so crucial, I think, when barging out, because I do know so many people that have amazing dreams,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to list them as the dreamers,
Yeah.
right? Because there's a difference between being a dreamer and an achiever of your dreams,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there's so many get rich quick kind
Yeah.
of, different ideas out there, and some of them are really good, but you have to have a plan.
Yep.
You have to know how to budget yourself and your time management. I did the same thing. I didn't do the same thing. I didn't jump bow
Okay.
because I did have a family. I was a single mom,
Yeah.
and so I started putting together a plan.
Yeah.
I was like, I just dreamt it on paper. I'm a very analytical, so I dreamt it on paper, and the more I did it on paper, wrote out my goals, wrote out a vision, the more I saw things starting to, doors open.
Right.
Talking about it with other people, connecting myself to people who were already doing what I wanted to do.
Boom.
And it was a game changer. And then, okay, this is the goal. This is what it takes to probably survive the first year. I didn't eat out for a year, y'all. What I'm talking about, ham, cheese sandwiches, cereal.
Yep.
That was my meal plan,
Yeah.
But that year of sacrifice was just a launching board to help me, get to where I am today.
Absolutely.
So you just jumped all in.
Well,
And it was a ride, it's a ride either way.
It's gonna be, yeah, and that's the thing that you have to be ready for. I believe in business, and it's. I've met, have a bunch of friends in business. Everybody starts out the same place. They start where they start.
That's right.
And we all feel like, hey, if this thing works, it's gonna be. I'd kind of be shocked, but I got enough belief to give it a shot, right? So you do that, and then you actually start getting some traction, and you get that first 1 or 2 clients that are like, this is the best service I ever had. And you're like, really? I knew I could do it, and then it just builds from there.
Yes.
I just think, there's something to be said about, when you start out, especially with a family, I'd hate to see someone, because with all technology and all stuff now, I don't think people have to be there, the all day. Like people say burn the ships. I don't think you gotta burn all of them at once. Because it puts a lot of pressure on you.
It does.
And some people are just not built for that. Like you can still be a great operator, and it also gives you time by not burning the ships, all of them right away. It gives you time to build the skills. Right? Like fail forward, like you said. It helps you build the skills. Like I was not a very good marketer in the beginning. So it took me a lot of time to develop that skill. I had sales, I was pretty personable, I was okay working hard, but if nobody knows about you, you're not gonna get anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what struggle. So I guess if I could tell my a little bit story, because I'm your guest, right? What happened because I didn't have those skills, ended up going on a foreclosure with a house I had bought, leaving my job, for foreclosure. Ended up going to bankruptcy, personal bankruptcy, to make sure, I had a bad tenant. I had all the things that some of my clients have now in present day.
Yeah.
And I just want to know, just want to tell people, like, it doesn't have to be that way if you just sort it out, take your time.
And even if it is that way, that you can jump back.
Yeah.
You can get yourself to a better place.
Yeah.
Because I know a financial planner, young lady, she is amazing financial planner. That is her backstory, with the foreclosure, the bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And, seeing her where she is today, it encourages me because so much of America, and it's not, because someone gets in bad debt or anything like that,
Right.
but medical bills, you have a loved one, a child,
Sure.
those medical bills will put you into some really financial pickles, predicaments. And do your due diligence, surround yourself with people, Dave Ramsey, Financial Pieces was a great resource for me, but there's ways that you can get out of that situation. Don't feel like you're stuck there. You're a great example. You weren't overcome by those circumstances.
Yeah. Don't get overcome by that, and and I guess my other part would just be to that, like, I wonder if it's just an American phenomenon that we always celebrate the person that's like the hero, right? We always celebrate the success story, but no one ever talks about the road to success.
Come on in.
Like it's usually, and if you listen to anybody's business, it sucks. It's not designed to be fun. It hurts a lot.
And it can be lonely.
And it can be super lonely. Matter of fact, if you're not on that road by yourself a little bit, you're probably on the pretty road. You got to get to the other road where at least people are traveling, so it could be less sexy, right? But like, that's a real phenomenon. I think people kind of, and even more so, and I get on a soapbox. We look at all these things online and we think like, hey, life is perfect. No, I still have challenges in my life, but those are the things that build you to the point where you can, go ahead and be a better version of who you are. And you're not going to get there without it. So just be prepared for the pain. But at the end of it, along with the pain, I think you got your dreams. That's the cool part.
Stay focused.
Yeah.
Stay focused, and it's okay to go through. Life is going to throw you the hurdles in your personal life, in your business life.
Yep.
Stay focused. Go back to your written goals, And sometimes we got to see where we are and kind of give ourselves a pat on the back,
Yeah.
and celebrate our accomplishments, because the journey is a long one, right?
Sure.
And like you were saying, that sometimes we just look at the success story, the top of the mountain, but it's like when you get to that top of the mountain, it's like, man, I can't believe that I just hiked,
I was at the bottom.
Yeah. That's where I came from.
100%.
So take a moment to acknowledge where you are, right? It's a step towards the goal, towards the future, and celebrate it, and have a plan. Make small steps, your overall goal, but also small individual steps that you can accomplish, whether it's daily, weekly, quarterly, at the end of the year, what did you check off the list? So I think now that we're in the Thanksgiving season, take time and be thankful for the hardships, the people around you who encouraged you. Be thankful for the people who didn't encourage you.
Ooh, that's a good one. The haters.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me tell you, I have my one hater that put a lot of obstacles for me to achieve in my career. And that person, every obstacle they put in front of me, I overcame. And I did it moaning, groaning, stomping.
Right.
But I did it.
Right.
And I'm like, thank God that I experienced that. It
Right.
gave me a thicker skin.
Mhm.
Now I know how to deal with professional bullies.
That's right.
And look, I would have never gotten all these different licenses, if I wasn't forced to by so and so.
There you go.
I realized a new power, a new strength, so.
Boom. Yeah, I love it. I love what you're saying. And I think it's so true for so many people. And, but it's par for the course, right? We all experience this thing in life. And I'll tell you that nobody really knows when it's all gonna be over, right? It sounds cliche, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
You know, I lost my sister like 2 months ago. Didn't even, didn't expect it, didn't know it. And I think that kind of shows, at least it shows me, someone so young, 30 years old, that at any point, life can change. So what you do is you go towards, not what you're afraid of, but go towards the thing. Because if you're gonna go out, why not go towards what you want?
Yes, full throttle.
Right?
Full throttle.
Why not go towards what you want?
Well, I'm sorry for your loss.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
But that's a very good point. Life is definitely too short. What do you value?
Yeah.
Is it all the bling bling? That's not, self-image is one of the things that's like, you guys, you don't need all that. You don't need all that,
I know some people that need all that. And that's okay. Like, I know some people that definitely need it.
But as you're starting out, take it to the basics.
Yeah.
Knowledge is what you need.
Yeah.
Get the know, because you said something, just taking it back, was that you didn't know a lot about marketing.
I didn't.
But you educated yourself.
Yeah, it was by necessity. You're right. And I can see that there's this urge to maybe seem more credible and important by what you have, but let's be real, like if you are starting out, you're not gonna have a Lamborghini most of the time.
Right.
You're not gonna have these things to flash at people to give you instant credibility. What you can, that's invaluable in any space, is things like integrity.
Come on.
Right? You call, the simple things like calling somebody back, if you meet them in an event, actually calling them after the event, because am I right? Most people, when they meet you that one time, they're not calling you.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
That's it. Networking 101. You want to be the best networker out there? Actually, meet somebody and then call them back and then be like, hey, what's your business about? Like this, that's a sneaky one. That's
yes.
That's like, took me 10 years to learn that, but I just gave that one away on this podcast for free with Noemi. So use it, okay? Just call somebody back. Just don't take the business card and then go home and be like, I networked today. No, you didn't. You net lost. Like, there's nothing happening. So that's just little stuff like that makes all the difference in the market, and then you're gonna get your tribe of client that wants to work with you. And then what you'll eventually figure out is like, okay, now I know who my client is. How can I go get more of those people?
That's right.
Yeah.
So get an idea of who your ideal client is. Tweak that. See who those top A rated, because I have, what I call my ratings for my clients, the A rated, and what did I do to obtain them? What am I doing to keep them? And things of that nature. Yeah. I did want to take it back though. So once you found yourself in, that financial struggle, what was the journey coming out of that?
I guess looking back on it, it was more about, I just didn't want to stay where I was. I didn't want to feel like I was a victim. I knew I had made some mistakes, right? I took some accountability because, looking back, I'm like, maybe it wasn't the best idea to quit my job and start a business, right? And buy a house at the same time. So it's like, and then, life happened, like 2008 crash happened right around the same time. But what I was grateful for was the fact that, during those hard times, my wife and I did not break up. We were still together 17 years.
Oh, congratulations. Goals.
Winning. But like during that time, we, it wasn't easy, but we stuck it out. We both got out of that situation. We both flourished, got back on our feet, and, today you're doing great. So it's like that kind of stuff you take away from that, and then we have the lesson. And also having like a 17-year-old son, well, 18 now, you get to impart that wisdom and say, hey, like, we probably wouldn't do it like that, right? So you get to tell him in real time, and I think that's invaluable too, because you don't have to tell him all about the wins, and say, hey, don't have to be pretty all the time, like what you see online. Here, we're still doing good, and I think that's another benefit that we took away from it. So that's how we came out.
Influencing the next generation.
Yeah.
And it's so important to, as parents, I can speak for the older generation. Everything was taboo. Nothing was spoken about. I didn't know anything about my parents' finances, how they managed this, how I never saw my parents argue. How to have it. It was like, honey, but dear, that's how they argued.
Oh, wow.
So some people say that's good, but at the same time, it wasn't realistic, you know, where it's healthy to have a good discussion,
Sure.
to have a good argument without crossing the line and still be respectful, you
Right,
know?
right.
And just being able to see how to navigate those type of conversations without just sweeping it under the broom. And so with my son, it's one thing that I'm like so transparent. You know, people might say it's too much, but I'm like, no. We say we want our children to tell us everything. Because we want them to know that we're there for them in every circumstance.
Right.
We need to also be able to communicate.
Very
Different ages, obviously different level of communication.
Right.
But share those experiences with them, because if not, who else, where might they gonna get those experiences and that knowledge from?
100%. And I think you know, you're right. It's like, who are they going to learn from? They're going to learn everything from you one way or the other. So why not give them the tools that you want them to have, and don't, you know? And sometimes there's a lot of pressure, man. Like, you know, societal norms. Like, we all want to fit in, but not all of us is going to fit in. Let's keep it real.
I don't fit in.
Yeah. If you're out there and you don't fit in, guess what? You're not alone.
If you're a quirky soul,
Yeah.
hey, you got company right here.
Exactly. Okay? You come on the podcast, you'll be a guest.
Yeah.
That's it, Bobo.
Hit us up.
Right? But, you know, that's okay. And I think most people will understand and identify with, they just want to be who they are. And most people, I'm going to tell you this, I've been the world over. Most people are so amazing. We just have all these fears and concerns about stuff that probably will never happen. Let's just get past all that and just, like, you know, get to know the person, individual that's right in front of you, and
I love that.
do the best you can.
I love that.
And I think things will work out. They usually do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Onions.
Onions.
I'm quoting Shrek here.
What was that?
People are onions.
Oh,
Remember
the layers?
with Donkey?
I thought you were talking like some Latina stuff. Like, okay, now we can say boy, yeah. I didn't know where you were going with the onions thing.
Onion Shrek.
Okay, now I know.
Oh
okay.
my gosh. So you overcame those financial. You were still in Pennsylvania at that time?
No, by this time I was in New Jersey.
Okay.
And yeah, we were kind of like, yeah, we were on our way down here to Florida. But
okay.
This was right before, circa day, maybe 2007, 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what transition to come down here, and when did you start?
Oh, okay.
Mr. Foxy.
Yeah, so that Mr.
Well,
didn't come
sorry. Hold on.
Mr. didn't come first. What was easy for us is like we were living in New Jersey, and it was like 2 winters in a row. It was just snow like crazy.
Okay.
And we started to think like, hey, is this gonna be our life? Like, are we gonna, you know, much like other northern people, I'm sure. So my wife at the time, she had just gotten a job at IKEA stores.
Okay.
So she had an opportunity to come and transfer to the IKEA here in Tampa. And I said, all right. At first, I was not the visionary. I was just like, nah, like we don't know anybody there. I was like totally against it. Tampa, oh man, sun and beautiful weather, no, right? Oh man, but she said, let's go check it out. We came down for a visit and had a friend that lived in St. Pete. And I said, you know what, like, yeah, it looks pretty nice. Why don't we give it a shot? So we did. We moved, the 3 of us, and maybe a year or so, a year and a half later, in-laws moved.
Okay.
You know, and everybody started trickling down.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we have like a little group, like a little clan of people that live here now, pretty close.
You started a movement.
Yeah, we were trailblazing back then, and then shortly thereafter, once I got down here, I decided, you know, I started doing a little bit of real estate investing in New Jersey. But what I really loved about Florida, especially Tampa, is I tell people it's like kind of like coming to Harvard for real estate investing. And why that is because when you come down here, there's nothing you can't do. And that's a good thing. You know, freedom is a good thing because there's all different types of strategies for real estate.
Okay.
It's not just cash or listed with an agent. There's probably another handful of options that you can use, anybody can use to sell their home. The thing is, most people just don't know.
You don't know.
Right? So for us...
And I'm like, there's more?
Yeah, yeah, so it's like when I came here, I got to understand there were so many different options available. And I could service more and more people because I was that customer, right? I was that person that, you know, not everybody's in foreclosure, but my particular circumstances, I needed to sell my house because I wanted to get out of like some financial burden.
Right.
Other people want to sell because they don't want to wait for it to be on the market, or they don't want to have to deal with tenants. My situation was pretty much like all three, and I just wanted to get out, and I wish I had known someone like me to kind of get out for the situation. So
Okay.
that's what I wanted to do.
Okay, awesome. Well, I mean, that's a really great start, just because you lived it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what better is like, you know, you lived it, you breathed it, and you know what your clients need.
For sure.
Because you were in their shoes.
For sure. It's like, you remember those commercials when you were little? Like, I'm not only a hair club client, I'm the president.
Yes.
And I know what you're thinking.
We're too old, David.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you gotta date yourself. You know what I mean? Okay? You gotta let people know who you are. But yeah, you might be thinking, yeah, this guy's wearing a hat. It's because I could be the hair club president, and it's not looking that great right now, so I'm wearing a hat on the podcast. But with that being said, yeah, like, you know, I was a client, so I know how it is. And I think that's a big advantage that I've been able to maintain over the years. I've seen a lot of people come and go. I've seen the big companies come in, your Open Doors, and these people, you know, and not to knock them, they just they have no connection. It's kind of like Walmart, you know, versus the local convenience store. Yeah, the prices are cheaper, and you can feel like it's a big brand, but what kind of, number one, kind of service are you getting, and what kind of quality?
Come on.
So that's the difference. You know, when you're selling your house, real estate's always been a local thing anyway. It's like, if you're gonna sell your house, sell to someone that's locally in the market. That's how I always felt. Because they know, you know, they know Rogers Street, or they know Rome, like, they know. But they don't, these guys, they just know datas and stats, and we do too, but I'd much rather you sell to us.
Those two things that you just said are so essential, the quality and the customer service.
For sure.
Because I will tell you that, you know, I like things to be cost effective, but I don't mind paying top dollar to get top dollar quality and get top dollar service,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And it was so funny because we just sold our home this past summer. Change in the lifestyle and in locations and things like that. We had just renovated the year before.
Right.
Because it was going to be our dream home.
For sure.
So we just, you know, spent a guap renovating it. And it's like, oh, we're moving now. But we went with our realtors. Shout out to Dossie Realty.
And Dossie.
And Nancy Dossie. They're amazing. And so they've just been our realtors for the past 9 years. Every property that we've had with them, it's like they heard us, you know, because we dealt with other realtors, but they heard what our non-negotiable was. And every property was within our, but, you know, it wasn't like other experiences. So their service was amazing. Some people were like, oh, what's the rate? And it's like, yeah, but you know what? They're on the top of their game.
Yeah.
And my house was sold within 5 days for asking price, multiple offers. So yes, you're absolutely right. I'm going to pay top dollar because I want to make top dollar on this house.
Exactly.
So when you have the quality and the service, sometimes you guys don't discount yourselves. You know, I know
100%.
We think we have to discount ourselves to get more business and attract more business, but the quality clients that you want, if they know your worth, they see your value, they will pay what you're asking.
100%. It's a lose-lose proposition, right? If you think about it, because if you want to pay or you want to accept less, how motivated are you going to be to give good service, right? Because you're already working for cheap prices, right? So and then if you want to, and then there's no place for your client to go because they're already paying less, and if they want to negotiate, they're just like, that's the guy that's always looking for the deal anyway.
Yep.
So you don't want that, and yeah, you definitely got to know your worth, but also just kind of price yourself where you want to have your clients. Would be my suggestion too. It's like you set your number. If you can make that number, great, and don't worry so much about like, is this the right person or whatever. You'll know when you get that person because they're gonna align with what it is you want to offer, right? We don't offer always the best price necessarily in a situation, but I can tell you, when you decide to work with me and my team, we're giving you the best option, and you're also getting the education to say like, hey, if your house was renovated, this is what it would be worth. Like, that's got to be worth something in itself. You know, you didn't have to go sit through a realtor presentation. You didn't have to, you know, you didn't have to go search up on Zillow or Redfin and guess. You didn't have to pay $500 for an appraisal. I'm going to tell you, this is more like, based on my professional opinion and also stats, this is what it's going to be worth.
Yeah.
In 9 minutes, like.
And the education part is so huge.
Yeah.
So huge, and clients do appreciate that. I have a dear client out in Lakeland who's followed me for the past 9 years.
Boom.
The Mills, love you guys so much. And they've been my biggest cheerleaders, and they have just followed me. But she said, every time you go through that policy with us, line by line, you know? And she's like, if there's any questions, you kind of see it in our eyes and you break it down.
Yeah.
And she's like, and at the end of the day, we're going to go with whatever you say, but that you're taking the time to break it down for us and make sure that we have the knowledge so that we can make the most educated decision for ourselves. So they do appreciate that.
That's great, and that's some testament to you. I mean, that, like we talked about, like the intangibles. That's something you probably just did. Maybe you felt like, oh, these people just need to know for whatever reason. But the fact that you do that, and it's little, and it ain't a Lamborghini, it ain't, you know what I'm saying, dressing up super fancy. Although you look nice.
Oh, thank you,
Right? But you know, those are the things that people will remember, because the reality is your competition ain't doing it.
Yeah. 100%. And I will tell you, because I've seen, it was so funny because when you're talking about the different realtors out there, like Open Door or whatnot,
right.
My dad gets so many flyers and so many text messages from these companies,
right.
And maybe that's something that you can, that we can dive into
Sure.
and unpack a little bit.
Sure.
And so I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm on the phone, they're giving me an estimate on the house. And it was like 3 minutes later, and I said, so what happened? He goes, well, they just told me what did I want to offer them, or, you know, to sell the house, and I gave them a number, and they said, yeah, we're not doing that, and they hung up. And I'm like, what is that?
Right.
What is that?
So, I mean, what I would suspect is our business is you know, we're in a home buying business, right? And anytime you're trying to buy something, there's a market, there's a buyer and a seller. Of course, the buyer wants to buy it for the least amount that possible, because they're going to have an opportunity to make margin. We're all in business. But also the seller wants to make the most as well. So it's always a dance. Even if you were selling on the real estate market, you still have that buyer wants this and the seller wants this. It's the same thing. The only difference is when you work with most, like, let's call them home buying companies, right? Direct home buying companies. They only have one model, and that's the cash model. They're only going to give you cash based off of what they think they can buy. And generally speaking, that number is relatively low because they only have one way to go on it. They can only fix up the house, renovate it. But not every home is in, that only works with the really dilapidated houses a lot of times, because they're really not that valuable, right? Think about like a car. If you got an old junker, beat up car, and you're like, okay, I want to get the most out of it, you're going to pour a lot of money into that car to get it to where you can get the most. If it's a moderately beat up car, right, it's an in between, right, then you're like, okay, well, I put a few bucks in, and you should be able to get more for that.
Right.
Our strategy has always been like, okay, well, if you're wherever you are, the beat up car, we can give you an offer for that one, or if it's a little bit nicer, we can offer you different options. We can say, okay, well, maybe if we took payments on an option, like maybe if we paid you for the house and we paid you over a certain amount of time, like a buy here, pay here kind of thing, if we're talking cars, right? We can do that. Or if you wanted to look at, okay, what would it look like even going on the market? We have agents that we partner with to be able to help you to do that.
Wow.
So at a reasonable rate, you know, below market. So it kind of helps people to just maximize how much they can get without having to do all the work. You don't have to go to 15 different places. Just come one place.
One-stop shop.
Come to Foxy, one place.
And options, you guys. Who doesn't love options, you know?
I know my wife loves options, especially when
I'm Sean.
she goes shopping.
I'm Sean, do that.
Yeah, so. Which
and
wife
good
doesn't like
for
options?
you.
Yeah. She's watching. Speaking of, you know, you asked about Foxy. She's the one who came up with the name.
Okay. Yeah, tell me about that. How did that come to be?
You know, in my infinite wisdom, I told you already. I already disclaimed that I was not great at marketing. So I started out as Damon Buys Houses, right? A genius marketing plan, worked really great. and then I ended up saying, you know, I gotta switch this up because everybody's doing their name buys houses.
Yes.
So I said, you know, let's call it Sexy Home Buyer, right? This is my marketing brain in like, in my early part of career. And I said to her,
Such a guy.
yeah, I'm such a dude, right? And she says to me, she says, are you kidding me? She's like, you're going to offend not every woman, first of all, you're going to offend them because they're going to be like, was this guy like a pervert? Or,
Okay.
right? Like he's definitely feeling himself way too much. And it wasn't because of that. It's just that I just want to stand out. I'm thinking sex sells, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, no way back then you could put your signs out on the street. She's like, there's no way in neighborhoods people are not going to take your signs down. So she said, okay, give me a little bit. And came back maybe an hour or two later and she says, how about something a little softer like Foxy? And I thought to myself, Foxy. And she's like, yeah, kind of like Foxy Lady, Foxy Brown. And since then it's stuck.
Okay.
And if you say it enough, people are just like, I can't forget it.
Well, kudos to Mrs. Hart.
Yeah, Mrs. Foxy.
Loving it. Mrs.
Appreciate
Foxy.
you, love.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me feel better you didn't come up with that.
Yeah. If that makes you feel
You
great.
guys don't even understand. So I met Damon in the cafe.
Yeah.
At our shared co-op space that we kind of just chill at, do some work.
Yeah, we co-work, whatever that means.
And I think I'm coming in, you're coming out,
Right.
and you're like, who are you? And I'm like, oh, this is what I do, this is who I am. I'm like, and who are you?
Yeah.
You're like, Mr. Foxy. And I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah.
The eye roll happened.
Yeah.
But when he's telling me his business and what he does, it's like, it clicks. I get it.
Yeah.
By Foxy Homes.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so, yeah.
Yeah,
kudos
it
to
wasn't.
Mr.
Yeah, it was. But that's how I get them every time. See, marketing works, right?
It works.
It's
you're
all
right.
about getting attention. You say Mr. Foxy, they're like, this guy. I was Mr. Foxy before there was a Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank.
Is that right?
I think I was. I feel like Kevin O'Leary. Not that he stole it.
Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah, I like Mr. Wonderful, right? But that's the name right there. You can't forget that one.
It is. Yeah, that's
for
pretty
sure.
brilliant. So Damon, all right. So you got the you're established
Yes.
with Foxy Homes.
Yep.
How did you build the team? When did you know I need to expand? Because I think that's another part where business owners get stuck. We get stuck doing it ourselves.
100%.
We know how to do it. It's our baby. We don't want to let anybody else in.
Right.
But if we want to be a successful entrepreneur, the goal is to establish a team, to
Right.
know when to say, hey, I need help. I need more resources.
Yeah.
So what was that for you?
Well, I wish I could say that process was like seamless for me, but it wasn't until maybe like 2 or 3 years in
Okay.
that I was a solopreneur for like maybe the first year and a half, 2 years. Then eventually I got lucky. I went overseas and I hired one VA. I
Okay.
started my virtual assistant, and she was great. She was kind of handling this task that I couldn't really get to, that didn't work well for me. Then eventually she got pregnant. And she had a conversation with me. She said, you know what? I think my husband would be really great for you. And I was like, your husband? She's like, yeah, I think you would like him. And hooked us up, and he's been with me 9 years, and he's my
That's awesome.
director of marketing.
Oh my gosh.
We got to visit, went over there he's in Asia and the Philippines, and bulk of our team is over there.
Okay.
We got Team Asia and Team US. We got about 14 people now, some stateside, some abroad. And, he was just like, we were over there just this past season. We were over there and got to meet them for the first time in 9 years, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, the whole team got together, just talking, joking.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's been a great experience for sure. But to answer your question about when to grow, if I had to do it all over again, I would say you want to spend the first part of your business, and you got to know who you are, the type of person you are. If you're the analytical document type of person, then it should be pretty easy for you to, while you're doing your stuff, document stuff and make sure that the process works. Most business people aren't like that. Let's keep it a buck, right? You're probably an anomaly. Not everybody's like that. Okay? So if you're the opposite, like more I am, and you understand that you do need that, what you want to do is hire to your weaknesses.
Yes.
So get that person that's maybe a little bit stronger in those functional things like I did. All the systems, all that stuff, I
Yes.
hired out for that. Hired to that, and then as you start building, start making a process and documenting. Because once you do that, then you become scalable. Like people talk about growing. Yeah, I mean, you talk about growing in anything. In business, the language of growth is duplication, and if you're not able to duplicate what you're doing on a regular basis,
Yeah.
it's gonna be hard, and then you gotta find the right people after that. So I would start with doing it, so you know what you're talking about, then document it, and then get the right butts in the seat, and that's where you can start to grow after that.
And I will say, the first thing you said was know your style, know who you are. That is such a big part of it, you guys. My background, I've scaled 2 insurance agencies for other people. One owner was like, here, you do it,
Right.
take it, I just have the deep pockets, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know anything about insurance. Built him a team, and it was great. He was so hands off. It was amazing. It was great.
Right.
Scaled it 6 years later. He sold it. Great, you know. The other one was in insurance all her life. You know, top sales rep for her company, which is amazing. Decided to start her own agency. But just because you're a great salesperson doesn't mean you're going to be a great manager. Doesn't mean you're going to be great at, you know, processes. So that's where I was like, okay, so these are the areas I can help you in, you know, have a one-to-one. So be open to getting a business coach and finding out what those gaps are. If you're saying, hey, I don't know how to identify it, I don't know what my style is, there's resources to you. And instead of investing in that Lamborghini right away, invest in yourself, invest in your business, go to a business coach, you know, many will do a free consultation with you, you know, and kind of chart where you're at, and there's membership levels. Shout out to Action Coach, Tampa Bay, Scott and Teresa are amazing. But get a coach that can guide you and help you to the next level, because that's their goal, is to help you thrive, right?
Yeah.
So
and maybe, you know, some people aren't, you know, when they hear coach, they're like, shoot, like it's money, right? Like I know how it is, people out there, like you're thinking, oh, what's the investment? So maybe if you're not ready to do the coach thing in the beginning, because maybe that's a hurdle for you, at least get around the space where you can get feedback from other people that are in your space.
100%.
Because, you know, if you're the only person that gives you advice about your business, you probably gonna be in trouble.
Oh yeah.
Because you're talking to the same, you're getting the advice and giving the advice to the same person. It's like, it's not gonna work.
That's good.
So just get around some people that can support you would be another way to look at it.
Yeah. And I gotta say, shout out to Jeremy here at Crest Community.
Boom.
Lots of shout outs today.
You shouting out. We're in the shout out season.
Jeremy here at Crest Community, the founder of this place, we have an amazing network of colleagues. And we have, what he did was a mastermind where we all get together and pick one person's kind of dilemma, if you will, to kind of unpack and give feedback and ideas to, which, you know, something as simple as that. Get with a group of people that are already in business and kind of help you grow if you don't want to go the coach route.
Right. Yeah, and there's something to be said about that, because I think for most people, it gives them 2 things. It gives them an opportunity to receive things, right? Like they get to hear, like, oh, this is great for my business, but it also gives them an opportunity to contribute to somebody else's business. Because then you start to realize how smart you are when it's not your business, right? Like, oh man, you should definitely do more marketing.
Why are you not doing that?
Yeah. You need a salesperson. Meanwhile, you over there doing everything by yourself. You know, it's like,
oh my gosh, that's so good.
Yeah,
that's so good.
That's what you get.
Yeah, and I've learned, you know, we can be great doctors at our field, but we need to learn to be great patients in the areas where we need to heed advice from others.
That's
so
absolutely good, yeah.
So Damon, oh my goodness, so much good information.
Oh wow.
I know that Foxy Home Buyers, based out of Riverview.
Yeah, that's where we started.
Okay.
And most of our service area is here in Tampa though. Always been.
That's awesome. The greater Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So, and tell us, who is your ideal client?
Yeah, so our ideal client, I tell people all the time, like, we're looking for people that if you want to sell your home, like we're your best option.
Okay.
Because if you just want to make one call and sell your home, that's who we want to talk to. Because sometimes people, when they get into the process, they have to go online, they're searching, they're gonna call 4 or 5 different agents, they don't wanna do the appointments, they don't want a bunch of people walking through the house necessarily all at once. You know, they feel like they're kinda stuck in a box.
Yeah.
Or we say, when you feel like stuck in a box, call the fox.
Ah, say that again.
When you feel like you're stuck in a box and you wanna sell a house, call the fox.
Sorry, I had to get, that's a good soundbite, you know that, right?
Boom.
So established 2014
Right.
here in Riverview,
Right.
but serving the greater Tampa Bay, you guys. Damon Hart, make sure that you're following him on the socials, Mr.Foxy, and also Foxy Home Buyer.
Right, Foxy Home Buyer for all the regular socials for the business, and Damon Hart, Mr. Foxy for everything else.
So any last little tidbits for those budding entrepreneurs with a little flame that we want to help ignite?
Yeah, I guess the best advice I would give to somebody starting out in business is, well, wherever you're starting is okay. Get used to being away from social media a little bit. If you're on it, you should be posting, not consuming. You should be a content creator, not a content consumer, if you're gonna play this game. And then the next thing I would say in the short term, aside from all the other stuff, like people say, oh, do this, do that, marketing, sales, and customer service. You market, you sell a customer, and you make sure that they're happy at the end. You do those 3 things, you'll be in business for a long time.
Bravo, bravo, well done. Well,
Yeah.
I'm super excited. Thank you for coming on, and I'm sure that we'll have you on again because we've got a lot more to unpack. And I think our viewers are going to be excited to just hear more. Leave us comments below. Let us know. Do you guys want to hear back from Damon? What are your questions from him? Are you in real estate? Are you thinking about going into real estate investing? Do you have questions on, best practices? And we can dive a little bit deeper into that with Damon here.
That sounds perfect. I love to be a repeat customer, a repeat guest. I gotta work on my R's.
You got to work on your R's.
Sound like a cat.
I don't know what that sounds like.
Like a bad car, like an old car.
I don't know. This has been another episode here at the Biz Boutique Business Insight Solutions. Your host, Noemi Rivera and Damon Hart. Mr. Foxy.
Ciao for now.